Hey, cats, what's good? Today I'm just going to touch on an alternate economic recovery plan, right? And I'm sure there'll be plenty out there that'll call it draconian. But you know the deal, you want to hit? Here you go.
People in Russia and China are not sitting around doing identity politics. As I said at the time, they're getting ready. And now you're starting to see the Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, talked only days ago about how the purpose of what they're doing in Ukraine is to push America out of Eastern Europe, and it is to end the American global dominance in the world. That's what people want. And make no mistake about it, they're coming for what we have. And I've tried to make this point to people over and over and over again. We don't live in some magical rainbow colored world in which everyone wants to live happily and trade and whatever. Yes, that's part of it. But there are a lot of people in the world who just want what we have. And they're coming.
We're coming to get you! Hey, savages, welcome in. Thanks for coming as always. Happy 420. And happy birthday to my dog Blurry over there at the Liberty Bowl. Stop by. I'll put the link in the description. Stop by, check his videos out, and tell him happy 420th birthday, man. But anyway, like I said, we're going to touch on an alternate economic recovery theory. And it's the exact opposite of the current situation we have, which is weak men create hard times, right? We want to flip-flop that, all right? But anyway, we'll jump right into it. Obviously, the money supply has been inflated to the point to where our dollar has lost, about 93% of its buying power. We're seeing the BRICS nations steady, grow letters, keep cutting deals to trade outside of the American dollar, which obviously has been the trade standard for the planet, the reserve currency. We're in danger of losing that, and literally the dollar will lose the rest of its value overnight. The lizard overlords' remedy for that is to destroy assets and the economy, basically a controlled implosion, so they can roll out Federal Reserve-backed digital coins, so they can control and tax all your purchases and expenditures and have the ability to shut it off at any time, right? When it comes to dissenting opinions and voices, especially, right? We're seeing that with social media. Banks have cut ties with large holders over their political opinions and so on and so forth. But all they're doing basically is just racking up the debt. I know the current corpse in chief loves to walk around and say he lowered the deficit. By that he means he's spending slightly below what was spent during the peak of COVID spending. Right? That's the reduction he's speaking on. His plan actually increases the national debt, which now sits at $31.46 trillion. Up to right around $50 trillion by 2033, right? You're hearing those numbers correctly. So 31.46 total debt, 24.26 trillion held by the public, right? Held by you and I, as if we spent this money or we incurred this debt. This is literally an out-of-control government, right? But the complete GDP for the United States, 23.32 trillion, right? 6.2 trillion in revenues, or I'm sorry, 6.2 trillion expenditures planned for fiscal year 2023, right? With 4.8 trillion in total revenues, which is a deficit of 1.4 trillion, bumping that public debt by the end of this year up to 25.7, right? But the old bedriddens with biddens lowered the deficit. He's stopping increasing the zone. Yada yada. But there's some misconceptions about the way that the government tends to absolutely destroy the currency and blow your money. And the number one, of course, is everything is always blamed on defense spending, right? It's always if we cut defense spending, we could do this, that, and the third. But in reality, defense spending is the fifth on the list and the top 10 spending aspects as far as the government's concerned. The number one expenditure on the list here, right? Just obtusely named services, right? 2.79 trillion in services. Okay, and I know that people were, they're going to say, well, services, that's like, public services, social. No, it's not. That comes later down the list. This is literally just says services. But, second, Social Security payouts. That's 1.22 trillion. And it's funny that this is even listed in expenditures, because if Social Security was actually functioning the way it was intended, there would be a surplus in escrow, not to mention they take from your check on every payroll. You're literally currently funding it, but they're counting it as an expenditure against the federal budget. Next on the spending list, health, right? Oh, and to go back to Social Security is 19% of federal funding. The next highest is healthcare at $914 billion. Quite a large reduction, right? I mean, we're talking astronomical numbers, period, but that's quite a big reduction from Social Security. But healthcare services at 15%. Next on that list, $865 billion to income security at 14%, right? What does income security mean? So you're paying out for the health care, the Medicare, yada, yada. That's, your health expenditure, the 15%. You're paying out for the Social Security payments, which includes retirees and, of course, physically and mentally handicapped, whether that's legitimate or not. So what is $865 billion being spent on for income securities, right? And the one next now is everyone's favorite one to attack. Defense budget, $760 billion. Still, like I said, an astronomical number, but that equates to 12% of public spending. All right. So I went over earlier how healthcare was the third highest expenditure. Next on the list below defense, Medicare, right? How is that? Again, if we're spending $914 billion on healthcare, where's the, then $755 billion on Medicare? That is healthcare. So basically we're spending well over $1 billion, a little bit over $1.5 trillion on healthcare rather than the billions that they list. Next on the list is $677 billion, coming in at 11%, with education, training, social services, and employment. That's where I told you earlier, right? The services. All right. So again, 11% there. We pay $475 billion, the next highest on the expenditure, 8% of the federal budget, just to the interest payments of the federal debt. All right. Next on there, veterans benefits, $274 billion, 4%. Transportation, $132 billion. $129 billion spent on general government. That's not included in services. All right. And $65 billion literally labeled as other. Right? So you got these, blatantly obscure titles in the budget proposals as services, like I said, other, and general government, right? As if that shouldn't be one expenditure, because then you'd see how bloated stuff really is. But again, the point of all this is this is just the top 10 that I just named off, but total expenditures equates to a $1.4 trillion deficit. And what do? Every day you hear the bedriddens with Biden's admin constantly signing new bills to give away millions and billions and send your children's future to the Ukraines, right? But like I said in the beginning, how about that strong men create good times? But in order to get there, you have to live through the hard times that were previously created that you're currently entering into, right? So why not just kick it in full gear, come together as a country, right? Shut down the import business. Zero imports, all right? Only global trade that goes on as far as the United States is concerned is exports. We concentrate on our country, close the borders, And everyone's going to love this, right? This is where the whole draconian thing comes in. The only way to deal with this debt in a promptly manner without incurring billions upon billions of interest is to stop spending, right? And obviously, you don't want to go complete Grinch. But at the same time, the government is spending $3 out of every $10 made in this country through goods and services exchanges, right? So, I mean, the spending is the issue. So, the only way to deal with that, again, cut that spending. Let's cut these services. All this bullshit, blank thing services, 2.79 trillion. Obviously, you're going to need somewhat of public works. Again, we're not talking about 100%. That 31.46 trillion current debt at a 23.32 trillion GDP. If we were to, again, keep that in-house, right, only purchase American-made products, basically it would almost be like company coins for about 3 years, right? If we cut the spending down about 78% and put all of that saved surplus directly towards the debt, in 3 years we could be debt-free, right? And that cut, of course, or the current spending, of course, including the cut, would also include those interest payments. So, again, you would cut that out. You need, obvious essential services, fire, the fire department, EMTs, police, and, just overall emergency services. But other than that, the vast majority of so-called services are just bloat and inept, half-ass efforts. Right? I mean, we see, over in Europe, they literally have roads that the Romans built, right? There's roads that are still currently in use that are 2,000, plus years old. I'm sure, they cost their own amount in maintenance or what have you. But the point is they're still there. We spend billions on roads and can't manage to make one that lasts 5 years. You know what I mean? So, I mean, obviously a vast majority of these expenditures are absolutely moot. And I understand that it would be draconian to the extent that it would be 100% complete self-accountability and responsibility. It would be families, once again, coming together to take care of each other, to make sure each other eats, which was, obviously kind of seems like the intention of families to begin with, other than carrying on the gene pool, right? I mean, I know when I was a kid, you could go to just about any one of your given people at some point, and they would have some type of, invalid or, ancient family member laying around on their deathbed, right? And you don't see that now. Now families would just rather dump loved ones off at, nursing homes, rest homes, and basically forget about them. You know what I mean? Again, you're born into this world with a certain group of people, obviously your bloodline, that are supposed to be permanently attached to you. That's real charity. That's real family, rather than the coercion that the government uses to call charity while they're extorting you and committing theft. But the point of this is, if we could roll back spending and only concentrate on public works and services that were absolutely essential to make the country function, for 3 years, you could come out of this debt-free with American dollar. And again, as this spending in this 3-year time span, you retract the money supply and destroy bills made before 2020. Every bill in circulation that you can retract is then destroyed, made before 2020. Obviously, that will increase the value of the dollar pretty extensively, just about overnight, right? That's what lends value, is limited resource, right? Is the limited quantity, like a Bitcoin. There's only so many, there'll never be more made. Hence the reason it's like over 30,000 per at this point. But you see, every time they tell you that they're going to send billions to Ukraine's, or for spend on some other frivolous doo-doo, they fire up the printers, and it's a hidden tax is what inflation is, and you lose value of the current dollars you hold. So the soft men in this country are creating hard times as it's rolling in, economic literates and experts basically telling you get ready for a recession, if not a depression. And they will make you suffer under the yoke of your bullshit, like Biden announcing he's going to basically make homeowners with good credit pay higher payments to subsidize those without good credit to get homes. Just one of the new examples, the newest example. They will ream you through for being productive and creating wealth, while they reward degeneracy and apathy. Right? And so in closing, what the plan entails. Number one on the list, the entity that was put in place to protect the value of the dollar, but has overseen its complete devaluation. Again, estimates range from 93 to 97% of its buying power. The Federal Reserve, that is neither federal nor holds a reserve. Immediate elimination. Kick those lizards out of the country. Give the power of the printing press back to the United States Treasury, where it belongs. Right? Again, retracting the money supply. Basically, more money was printed in 2020 than all of previous dollars combined. We're talking trillions. So money retraction, destroy the supply printed 4 years before this rollout. Have a 1-year preparation process, whether that entails the elimination of property taxes and income taxes for that year leading up to for preparation. A shutdown of 78% of federal spending for a period of 3 years, right? And yes, that would include a big majority of Social Security and Medicare collectors. And before I get to, I pay into those, I've paid into them too. I've paid into them since I've been 15 years old. And regardless of what CNN or Joy Behar will have you believe, it will be insolvent by 2033. All right? So if I'm going to be bereft of my hard-earned dollars through theft and extortion, I would rather see it go to eliminate the debt that is going to chain my grandchildren down in future generations, right? And before you say, you want to kill grandmas, no, the government stealing billions of dollars from an escrow account and basically leaving redundant IOUs is what will kill your grandma. Because if that wasn't the case, Social Security wouldn't be the number one expenditure on the federal list, right? And obviously, I don't want my dollars stolen. I don't want to lose everything I've paid in either. But unfortunately, that's the way it's going to be. So why should just, a couple of generations deal with the brunt of that, right? And again, they will make you suffer under the yoke of their poor ideas, right? But ideas that will actually fix the situation and, there will be some suffering, of course, in any major transition. It's racism and yada yada, right? And then, of course, with that cutting of 78% of expenditures, that saving go directly towards the national debt, which in 3 years we could zero out, return to 100% value for the American dollar, and come out of the situation a healthier, stronger, more cohesive, family-oriented country, right? Possibly with some actual, productive skills en masse, as in being able to provide for yourself for food and, being more aware of what, it takes to grow food, and the fact that the amounts that you see in grocery stores almost cannot be provided in a single area naturally without chemicals and GMOs and yada yada. You know what I mean? The list just keeps going. To me, yeah, there's going to be some people that would face some hard times. I mean, probably myself included. But if I'm going to be a better person that lives in a stronger society because of it, I am 100% for it. All right? So you guys come on by, argue with me in the comments, debate me, tell me how I'm wrong, or I'm some draconian D-bag that doesn't care about grandmas, or just come by to tell me to fuck off. I appreciate it all. Once again, stop by the Liberty Bowl, tell my boy Blurry happy birthday, and happy 420. Smell you later.